We're ready to get going. Whenever you're ready, I'll just jump into it.
I'm ready.
Okay, all right, let's do it. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jesse Brooks, digital content producer for Fox 8 in New Orleans. Today on the digital desk, we have Shannon Shaw from Shannon and The Clams. They're a rock band out of Oakland, California. And I've seen some critics and writers, different rock magazines, some of them coming to the same conclusion that you guys are one of the most underrated and best bands in the world. So that kind of raises the bar high for you guys. April 7th, they'll be coming into town, into New Orleans. They're on a Southeast tour right now, and they're playing a show over at Tipintina's, which is one of the best rock venues in the country. I have to say, you guys are supporting your seventh album. The Moon is in the Wrong Place, is what it's called. It was produced by Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys, and they are on it was recorded over at Easy Eye Sound. So Shannon Shaw, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It feels good
Good.
up here. This weather is really nice. I'm in Houston right now. How's the weather in New Orleans?
You know they don't call it April showers for nothing. Yeah, I think yesterday we had like a 15% chance of rain, and it rained, but it's that thing where it just, it'll rain kind of hard for about 5 minutes, and you're like, "Oh, I thought we weren't supposed to have rain today," and then all of a sudden, it just goes away, and you just kind of deal with it, and um, gets us all hot and sticky for a little while, and then there's a cool front, and there's like a hot pocket of air, and that's just New Orleans in spring. But I imagine it's pretty similar over where you are in Houston right now too.
Definitely really windy and pretty steamy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about you guys. Let's introduce you guys to the New Orleans audience, because I know that you guys are going to come into town. I've been hearing about this live raucous show that you guys put on. Um, but let's get everyone familiar with Shannon and the Clams. I spent some time listening to you guys, and I kind of heard of like a 50s retro rock and roll sound, but there's like some 80s punk in there too. Um, but also you're working with Dan, so he knows how to marry the past, the present, and the future all together. So I kind of just wanted to ask you, in your opinion, do you consider Shannon and the Clams like a retro rock and roll act, or how do you view what you guys do?
I totally understand why anyone would say that. 'Cause I'm heavily influenced by the music I grew up listening to, and I grew up listening to oldies. Um, Lots of like 50s, 60s, 70s stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I can't say that it's retro in the sense of trying to recreate something
Hmm.
completely.
Hmm.
More more inspiration because I feel like it's a lot of I'm inspired by all kinds of stuff, and I feel like it
Yeah.
gets woven in there, and the my interpretation of the stuff that I love ends up being different than like a typical retro reproduction.
And we talked a little bit about Dan Auerbach from the Black Keys. He's produced several of your records. What's it like to work with Dan in the studio?
It's it's great. I love the studio so much. It's called Easy Eye Sound. Um, they've got, I'm not a huge gearhead, but they're kind of starting to make me more interested in
Yeah.
equipment, and they have everything you could ever want. Every cool old amp or guitar or piano of any sort, any percussive instrument is there at your fingertips. Everything's all plugged in and ready to get tracked. So it's not like you're like, well, maybe we should try the tubular bells today. Uh,
Yeah.
let's set that up for an hour and get it all situated. It's ready to go. So it makes experimenting less intimidating in a way.
Okay.
So, and it's just like a beautiful, comfortable space. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And that's over there in Nashville, right?
Yeah, Nashville, yep.
Okay. Um, Now, as I understand, the seventh album and the past year have really been um, an emotional year for you guys, and it also brought a lot of success to the band at the same time. And this seventh album kind of tackles some stuff that may be hard for some people to talk about up front. But I'm gonna let you kind of let our viewers in on what sets this seventh album, your latest album, apart from the rest?
Yeah, so my fiance was killed in a horrible car accident, August 2022.
Hmm.
And basically this album is my way of processing that tragedy.
Yeah,
And the bands too, because they all were really close to Joe. And he was a regular, he toured with us a lot. Like he came along with us. And
yeah,
um, yeah, so it's kind of an homage. It's an homage to him and the void he left behind and kind of exploring the loss
yeah,
and what I've discovered. I've never like had a loss like that before.
right.
I've learned a lot. And so that's really like the album is in ancient Egypt, when a pharaoh dies, they build him a pyramid.
That's right.
Um, this is my version of that,
Wow.
this album. It's my
Wow.
pyramid.
And the work shines through, and when you listen to this album, um, the passion hits back. It definitely feels heavy, and there's certainly a weight to it all. Was this something that maybe took longer than usual to produce, or did everything just kind of come out right away?
That's it's interesting. I had no expectation. Part of me was like, I don't know if I'll ever make music again,
Right, right.
what I'll do with anything for the rest of my life. But the way I've processed everything my whole life, life hasn't always been easy. Um, I've been making up songs since I was little.
Yeah,
Like I didn't start actually writing music or playing until I was 25. But as a little kid getting in trouble or whatever, I would start singing to myself and make up little songs.
right.
And I realized when I was doing this album that that's my way of, you know, processing it. It's kind of removing the issue from you, and being able to look at it more objectively or something helps you kind of understand what it is you're dealing with. So when the worst thing that's ever happened to me, it was very natural to start writing songs. So I
Yeah.
would say I started writing the bean fields within a couple of days. It just things were flying into my mind, and I think because this whole thing was so intense,
Hmm.
um, I felt like an endless creative. It felt like a deluge.
Right.
So I started working on stuff right away, and he passed away in August, and we went into the studio, or no, we started writing demos together as a band in January, and then we were
Oh,
in the
wow.
studio in February, March. So
Right.
it's quick, and I feel like I've got a lot to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose, if you're a songwriter, that's certainly a natural reaction to go to. And it's fairly interesting because everyone seems to go by a soundtrack that defines their lives, whether they're consciously making a playlist or whether it's just the songs that they think of in their day to day. But a songwriter has a unique position where, if, they go through something like that, they get to create the soundtrack.
I mean, that's really true. And that's a really cool perspective. It makes me think about like why Shannon and the Clams began. It kind of began because I wanted, I couldn't find I wanted to create like an atmosphere, a musical sound and a visual thing. I wanted to create the party that I wanted to go to and the music I wanted to hear. So that's an interesting perspective. And just going
Yeah,
back to something you said earlier about being able to like feel the heaviness in the record, something I've feedback that I've gotten that I have really enjoyed is people that had no idea that a tragedy occurred, and that's you know, why the album exists. People who had no idea until after.
yeah,
And they
yeah,
still loved the album and thought it was so good and just had no idea what it was about. I
yeah.
actually love that feedback. That makes me feel good because I don't want anyone going into it to enjoy it a certain way. I want it to come naturally. And it's been cool to hear people that had no idea and listened to it and then found out. And
Hmm.
that then you're like listening to you're having two different experiences, like
Yeah.
listening to the record. And
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely unique, and it is something that you wouldn't pick up on right away just by listening to it, off the cuff like that. Because you guys have such a vibrant sound, and I think a lot of it can apply to um, people in a lot of facets of their lives and stuff like that. But
sure.
when I listen to you guys' music, I passion is just the number one word that probably comes to my mind. And to be completely honest, I didn't know that much about you guys before news had come around that you were on tour coming through this area. So when I got to looking into all the records and your music and your sound and everything, I was an instant fan because it's got all the sounds that I like and all the incorporations of everything. And but the number one thing that I look for, I know it sounds so cliche, but passion. And believe it or not, there are musicians that produce music all the time that are kind of passionless, you know.
I agree. I agree. And I feel like you can tell, or not everyone, but uh,
Absolutely.
I feel like I could tell.
Yeah.
And
Especially in your live performances, things I looked up on YouTube and um, I don't know, the sound is all very, very clean, but it also has an edge to it too, which I enjoy.
yeah, I feel
Yeah.
the grit is a part of my life. I want it to always
Um,
be there.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about your beginning a little bit. I think I read that you guys are from Oakland, California. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's where the band started.
Okay.
Um, I went to art school out there and I had classes with Cody, who's like my right-hand man in the
Okay.
clan.
And he's the
Um,
guitar player, right?
yep, yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so we went to school together and I had just started playing and I was doing just open mic nights and I was super shy, super uncomfortable, didn't know what I was doing, but was just felt this need to play.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very supportive and would come to all my open mic nights if they were close. And eventually I think I felt comfortable doing open mic nights because at least where we lived, everyone was there not to watch you. They're just waiting for their turn.
Yeah.
And so it felt like, okay, this is good practice to be in front of people, but without feeling like I'm being watched too hard.
Right.
Anyways, he invited me to play a party at his punk house called the Fanny Shack. And I was like, no, I don't want to play for my peers. I don't want to play for my friends that care and are going to pay attention. And he's
Yeah.
like, that's who you should be playing for.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do it by myself. So I was called Shannon and the Clams before I had a band because it was, to me, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
It would go nowhere. I thought I'd play like three open mics and be done and just be a
Hmm.
full-time artist. But this one little party at a punk house with just a last minute, my roommate played and a friend, Sean. Um, so I had this band and we played three or four songs, and then after that, we got established pretty quickly, at least like in the punk scene, and then people were having me play parties and backyards, basements, camp, like play at camp outs all the time. And I
Yeah.
didn't say no to anything because it felt is, felt really good. Playing music feels really good.
Yeah.
Going
Absolutely.
going back to the grief, like I am, if I'm grateful to have this as an outlet. I don't know how people are grieve without a creative outlet. It's been
Mhm.
really good for me. And making myself do something that I was very uncomfortable with, that's like has been a great life lesson for me.
For sure, for sure. And so who are some of those artists that kind of influence the sound? Because we're talking about a wide range of sounds and a wide range of eras. We're kind of fortunate enough to live in this era where like so much of our music is archived and documented. So
Totally. Yeah.
people creating today can go back through all these old sounds and you might take all these retro ideas here and there, but really when you put it all together, it becomes new again.
Yeah, I fully agree. Um, well, my favorite singer of all time is Roy Orbison.
Nice.
Um, he's one of the first tapes I ever got is a tape my dad gave me of just his greatest hits, and been a big part of my life since I was little. I
Mhm.
also am a big Patsy Cline fan. I love the Ronettes and the Shangri-Las. Um, but then yeah, I love a lot of like punk music. I love the early Misfits. I love the Ramones.
Yeah.
I love what was I gonna say? I used to get these skate rock comps. Like, did you ever
Uh-huh.
see those tapes? Is it
Yes.
who were those by? Was it Thrasher?
There
Skate
were
Rock?
so many of them out back in the day. I remember when I was in high school, I got one. It was called, I think it was by the Atticus clothing line. It was either at a PacSun or a Hot Topic or something that I picked it up at, and it was like called Atticus Dragging the Leg Volume 2 or something like that. And
Uh-huh.
there was a couple of acts on there that ended up being like commercial rock bands that we all know, like Blink 182 and stuff like that. But then there were like some deeper cut bands on there, and that's how I became like a diehard Lucero fan, a band out of Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, kind of grittier. It's like punk, like maybe sort of emo-ish, but like more southern driven and things like that. So those things did expose me to a lot of bands I had never heard of.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, that's how I think it was Thrasher skate rock comps. They're
Yeah,
from
okay.
the 80s, and I just thrifted the tapes and loved them so much I started collecting them. But it was a lot of like LA punk from the 80s, like X and
X, yeah.
Circle Jerks and Red Cross and stuff like that. And I feel like that really ended up cementing like who I was as a music consumer. And then
Nice.
eventually I got really into like garage rock. And that's like a perfect mixture of, for me, oldies and punk.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think your sound will probably play well in front of our audiences here in New Orleans because there's a history of that kind of stuff, and people don't always think rock and roll in New Orleans right away, but I mean, you can make an argument that rock and roll was birthed in New Orleans as much as you can make that same argument for Memphis or a couple of other places. And the early New Orleans R&B is like very rock and roll stylistically, like leading up into the 50s and things like that. We also have a history of like um, kind of underground punk bands that kind of did this a thing similar to what you're doing. You know, they look back to those New Orleans R&B and swamp pop bands, and then just did this new kind of grittier spin on it. And we had, you know, and there's some of those bands are still out there playing today at places like where you're playing, Tips.
Who are we talking about?
Oh man, you might be putting me on the spot, but
Oh, sorry.
I know back in the 80s there was a band called The Cold. Vance DeGeneres was in that band, who's Ellen DeGeneres' brother. He
Oh,
was,
really?
oh yeah, yeah. The Cold was a big band over in the 80s in New Orleans and played places like Tips and Jimmy's, which is now I don't know if it became a venue called the Willow. I don't know if it's yeah if they're doing a lot of rock shows there these days, but yeah, there's kind of a precedent for you guys' sound, and which is great because you're building on this big year that you had last year in 2024. You went on a lot of tours, you had a lot of sellout shows, and I think you have some more sellout shows coming up. You have done or are going to do some tours with tour dates with Sierra Farrell, who's just blowing up right now. Uh,
Yeah, I'm so happy for her. She deserves it. She's
yeah, yeah.
so incredible.
And I think you guys are going to be on some shows with Alabama Shakes in their return, which I think you two bands are like a just great complementary pairing. I instantly got like some shades of them when I heard you guys.
I think so too. We're all really looking forward to that tour. Big time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see. So I guess we're getting towards the end of our time here today. We're kind of gonna wrap up here, but the last thing I want to ask you is, what are you looking forward to, in your experience coming to New Orleans, and what are you expecting from Monday night's show?
New Orleans is it's definitely in my top three favorite cities in the United States. I think it is so unique. It has so much soul. There's no city like it. There really isn't. So I'm like looking forward to getting back into that steamy place, seeing some beautiful things, eating some beautiful things. And I've heard so much about Tipitinas. I've heard
Yeah.
so much about it. And I I can honestly say that there's not tons of venues where people are like, "Oh my God, I love that place." Like of this size. I think at some point venues, the larger they get, maybe sometimes the less personality they get, but
Oh, for
everyone
sure.
has talked about this place. And you say, I can't wait to see what the hubbub's all about.
Well,
And I love the band, the Lostines, who's opening for us there. Super,
nice.
I'm really excited about this show. I'm coming a day early to do a swamp tour
Oh, excellent. Yeah,
and hang out. Yeah.
that's one time I was in New York and a guy told me, you know, what I like about your city, New Orleans over there is that over here we can't just get out and get in the wilderness. It's like a whole day thing. Like you guys just go 15 minutes down the road and you know, you can see some gators and whatnot and all that. But look, I want to welcome you into New Orleans. Hope you guys have a great time. Definitely get something good to eat. If you need some recommendations, just uh, DM me or whatever. I'll hook you guys up. Um,
All
but
right.
welcome to New Orleans. You'll love Tipintina's. It's a great intimate venue. And things get hopping in there. Shannon and the Clams, everyone, go check them out. Look up their social media, get the links to their music. You'll definitely enjoy it. It's music with soul. It's music that definitely appeals to people in New Orleans and South Louisiana alike. So, Shannon Shaw, I want to thank you for joining the Fox 8 Digital Desk today. And
Thanks.
I love this conversation today.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.